Michael, the archangel Michael, has attained the power to permeate people with his strength if they come toward him with all that lives in their souls, so that they can transform the old materialistic force of intellect and understanding, which had become so widespread and dominant in humanity, into a force of spiritual understanding. That is the objective fact. It has taken place. We may say of it that since November 1879, Michael has entered into a different relationship with mankind than he formerly had. But it is necessary for people to serve Michael. What I mean by this will become clearer to you through the following explanation. You are aware that before the mystery of Golgotha was accomplished upon earth, the Jews of the Old Testament looked up to their Yahweh or Jehovah. Those among the Jewish priests who looked up in full consciousness to Yahweh were well aware that they could not reach him directly with human perception. The very name Yahweh was held to be unutterable. Instead of speaking it, a sign only was made, one similar to certain combinations of signs which we attempt in the art of eurythmy. The Jewish priesthood, however, was well aware that one could approach Yahweh through Michael. They called Michael the countenance of Yahweh. Just as we learn to know a person when we look into his face, just as we draw conclusions about the gentleness of his soul from the gentleness of his countenance, and about his character from the way he looks to us, so the priesthood of Old Testament times, through the atavistic clairvoyance which flowed into their souls in dreams, desired to gain from the countenance of Yahweh, from Michael, a knowledge of Yahweh, whom it was not yet possible for mankind to reach. This priesthood had the right relationship toward Michael and Yahweh. It was aware that if a person of that time turned to Michael, he could find, through Michael, the Yahweh power, which it was proper for the humanity of that time to seek. Other soul guides and rulers of humanity have appeared since then in the place of Michael, but since November 1879, Michael is present again, and can become active in the soul life of those who seek ways toward him. These ways today are the paths of spiritual scientific knowledge. We may speak of, quote, the paths of Michael, close quote, just as well as the, quote, paths of spiritual scientific knowledge, close quote. But just at the time when Michael entered in this way into relationship with human souls, so as to be to them a source of inspiration for the next 3 centuries, the demonic opposing force, which had previously prepared itself, set up the very strongest opposition to him. Then a call resounded through the world during our so-called war years, in reality years of terror, a call which has become the great misunderstanding of world proportions, which now fills the hearts and souls of human beings. Let us consider what would have become of the Jewish people of the Old Testament if instead of approaching Yahweh through Michael, they had sought to approach him directly. They would have become an intolerant, self-seeking people, a nation concerned only with itself. For Yahweh is the God who is connected with all natural things. In the external, historical development of mankind, he manifests his being in the blood ties of succeeding generations, which find expression in the cultural and national identity of a people. It was only because the ancient Jewish people desired at that time to approach Yahweh through Michael that they saved themselves from becoming as a race so egotistic that Christ Jesus would not have been able to come forth from among them. Because they had permeated themselves with the Michael power of their time, the Jewish people were not so strongly impregnated with forces of national egoism as they would have been if they had turned directly to Yahweh or Jehovah. Today, Michael once more rules and guides the world, but mankind must develop a new relationship to him. For now Michael is the countenance, not of Yahweh, but of Christ Jesus. Today we must approach the Christ impulse through Michael. But in many respects, humanity has not yet struggled through to this. It retains, atavistically, the old qualities of feeling by which Michael could be approached when he was still the intermediary to Yahweh. And so today humanity has a false relationship to Michael. This false relationship is apparent in a very characteristic phenomenon. During the years of the war, we continually heard the universal lie, quote, freedom to all separate nations, even the very smallest nation, close quote. This is an essentially false idea, because today in this Michael period, what is all important is not human groups, but human individuals. This lie is nothing else than the endeavor to permeate each individual nation, not with the new force of Michael, but the force of the old, the pre-Christian time, with the Michael force of the Old Testament. However paradoxical it may sound, there is a tendency among so-called civilized nations of the present day to transform what was justifiable among the Jewish people of the Old Testament into something Luciferic, and to make of this the most powerful impulse in every nation. People wish today to build up republics like Poland, France, America, upon methods of thought suited to Old Testament times. They strive to follow Michael as it was right to follow him before the mystery of Golgotha, when people found through him the way to Yahweh, a God of peoples and nations. Today it is Christ Jesus whom we must strive to find through Michael. Christ Jesus, the divine leader of the whole human race. We must resolve to seek the real Christ upon the path of spiritual science, upon the Michael path. Only through this striving for spiritual truth is the real Christ to be sought and found.